it is time. We are doing Miss Amanda Bynes. We're doing a series on Miss Amanda Bynes. And I am so excited, and I hope y'all are excited. So starting off with her birth chart, she is an Aries sun, she's an Aquarius moon, and she's a Gemini rising. And then she's a Pisces Mercury, Taurus Venus, Capricorn Mars. So if you like to keep those things in mind, keep them in mind. And Amanda was born in 1986 in California, and apparently she was always interested in acting. She was always super funny, had great comedic timing, and her parents just knew that she had so much potential. So when she was 7 years old, they got her an agent. And her first big move was getting into the Laugh Factory camp. She was scouted for it, and it was basically this camp where big comedians taught kids how to do comedy, and she did fantastic in it. And apparently she loved acting and being in the spotlight so much that they would literally have to carry her off the stage when her time was up because she just wanted to stay out in front of the crowd longer. And wouldn't you know it, who happens to be in the crowd at her Laugh Factory performance but a Nickelodeon executive? And they loved her, of course. She's so cute. And around this time, she was also in commercials for Barbie and for Nestle, which are huge companies. That's a huge deal. But things are about to get a lot bigger because she was about to be the Nickelodeon it girl. But before we talk about her time on Nickelodeon, I think we probably need to take a brief interlude to discuss Dan Schneider. Very brief, but she has said that he was creepy and inappropriate. So we're going to talk about him a little bit because he was the producer on most of her shows. And I don't know that it's confirmed that she said he was creepy and inappropriate, but basically everyone else has. So I'm going to err on the side of confirmed. Her relationship with Dan Schneider over the years, though, is kind of weird and complex because it sometimes seems like she really likes him. So we'll just have to talk about his allegations just before we get into her time at Nickelodeon. We're going to talk about what may have been going on behind the scenes. Kind of unclear what she thought of him because there are times, you'll see later on, where it seems like she really likes him, but other people have said that she thought he was really creepy. And the main reason that people do not like Dan Schneider is because they feel like, especially when he was working with underage girls, the content that he was producing of them was over-sexualized, particularly with feet. And he has a lot of scenes and TV shows that he puts out involving feet in really odd scenarios. I don't know if it's just that he thinks like kids think feet are funny or if it's part of a sexual thing, but people have guessed that maybe he has a foot fetish. And there actually was an investigation into his behavior in 2018, but they didn't find anything about sexual misconduct. They did find, however, that a lot of people said he would throw temper tantrums and send super angry emails. And he was also asking people for like neck and shoulder massages a lot, which is creepy, but not necessarily harassment, I guess. And he also apparently did text a lot of the actors, underage actors, after hours, which I find to be inappropriate, but maybe doesn't warrant legal action. I'm not sure. However, Dan did end up leaving Nickelodeon in 2018, and everybody obviously guessed that it was because of all of these allegations, but he claims that it had nothing to do with that, and he's just overworked and needed a break because he was producing the majority of the shows on the network. And of course, he's denied all of these allegations. He still denies them to this day, and he actually recently has been hinting, apparently, at possibly returning to Nickelodeon. So I'm sure there will be a lot of opinions on that. Anyways, we're going to get back to Amanda because I don't want this whole thing to be about Dan Schneider, but it is an important note just in her past to think about when all of this is unfolding. But her first role on Nickelodeon was in 1996, and it was on All That, which is like a sketch comedy series that has come back throughout the years. And fans were actually not immediately ecstatic that Amanda was on the show. I mean, for one, nobody knew about Amanda yet, really. But she was replacing Angelique Bates, who is a woman of color, and a lot of people kind of felt like she was replaced by a white girl. I don't know if they fired Angelique or if she left, so it's not really clear if that's accurate or not, but that's kind of how fans felt, apparently, at first. She was also not immediately loved by all of her co-stars. In particular, Katrina Johnson has said that she found her kind of annoying, especially because Amanda was really young and really excited and really hyper, which I feel like this picture of them together perfectly shows the dynamic that she said was going on there. But I don't know that that means that she was awful. She just, she's a kid. She's a kid. She did do amazing on the show from the start, though, and ended up getting a lot of lead roles in sketches, and that really shot her into fame. A lot of people who have been on this show have become famous. Kenan Thompson was on this show, and he is, of course, on SNL now. Another great example, Gabriel Iglesias. He's now a famous comedian, but actually, Amanda is not a fan. She pulled him aside while he was on his season of the show, and said that he doesn't know how to be funny. Said that to his face, which she straight up roasted him. But he said that she was very perfectionist and very focused, not necessarily a normal kid in that way. But not all normal kids become as famous as Amanda Bynes. And at this point, she was making like $2 to $3 million a year. This child up here is making $2 to $3 million a year. She was obviously doing super great. She was very profitable for Nickelodeon. And so they decided, hey, let's milk this cash cow a little more. So she was on for 3 seasons, and then they decided she needs her own show. And thus, The Amanda Show was created, which was a huge deal. Everybody loved The Amanda Show. I wasn't even a Nickelodeon kind of kid, and I knew about The Amanda Show and liked it, so. And this was a huge deal for her, a great achievement. She has her own solo show now, and The Amanda Show was still kind of a variety show. Both Amanda Show and all that were basically like SNL for kids. I think that's how pretty much everyone would describe it. And in this show, though, she's playing the vast majority of the characters. Like, almost every sketch, she is the lead, and she's in pretty much every sketch. And at this point, people were comparing her to Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy because she was so funny and endearing and quirky, and everyone loved her. And just like SNL, they were also doing a lot of improv. Drake Bell was on this show. This is how he became famous. And he said that sometimes they just give them an outfit, not even a character, and they just had to go with it, create something, which is really, that requires a lot of talent, especially for children. And speaking of Drake, Josh was also on this show. They both became famous on The Amanda Show. That is where Drake and Josh started. And it's where they got the idea for Drake and Josh as a show. Apparently they had some sketch fighting over shrimp, and the producers said, this needs its own show. And it did, so. And Drake and Amanda actually struck up a romance during this time as well. They were both 13, 1999, and he said that she was so inspiring to him, a huge star to him, and he just really admired her work ethic and her talent. And after her and Drake broke up in 2001, she started dating Taran Killam, who was also on the show, and this was his first acting job out of school, so she really likes the rookies. But he was 19 and she was 15, so who's the real rookie? Still Taran, because he didn't know that that was illegal. You're over 18. Anyways, moving on, she won Favorite TV Actress in the Kids' Choice Awards for all 3 seasons of The Amanda Show, but unfortunately it ended in 2002. She just wanted to pursue other acting roles, and sweet Dan Schneider said that she was fantastic growing up and great in the limelight, and that she was so wholesome, and that it was so fantastic that even though she was a child actor growing up, nothing had affected her badly, which becomes super ironic as time goes on. And just to end this out, here's Judge Trudy, which was one of the best segments of The Amanda Show, although my favorite was the girls' room. I couldn't find a lot of good pictures from it, but I loved the girls' room. She is in Big Fat Liar. That was her first role after The Amanda Show, and she killed it. She was not the star of the movie, but she was the star. And side note, Taran Killam, her boyfriend at the time, was also in this movie. The next role we see Amanda in is What I Like About You. It was a TV show. It had some more mature topics, but her character was mainly the same. She was a wacky, fun, younger sister causing trouble. for the older sister, and she's kind of like a funny girl. And then she was in What a Girl Wants with Colin Firth, and that was a fantastic movie. And she was, again, funny, cute, quirky girl. And by 2004, she had 17 Choice Awards. She was a hot commodity in Hollywood. But again, as we just saw with those past 3 roles, she has like a certain role. She's the quirky, funny, cute, wacky, comedic girl. And she's really funny. So it makes sense why she got those roles, for sure. And also she's adorable. And Hollywood loved her. However, she didn't love that role. Her next movie was in 2005, Love Wrecked. And basically she's this funny fan who gets stranded on an island with this dude who's a celebrity, and she makes him think that they're stranded for way longer than needed. Who wouldn't? And side note, Lance Bass was also in this movie. He played a smaller role, but you might want to remember that because he will start talking about Amanda later. The main thing that happened on this movie is that she got mono, and she lost a ton of weight. And her mom said, "This is the best you've ever looked, honey." Thanks, Mom. So then she was determined to keep that weight off, however she had to do it. And of course, if you get the weight off through being sick, there's not going to be that many healthy ways to keep it off. And the media and people, fans, everybody did notice that she had lost weight. And there were obviously rumors going around because there was a lot of other pop culture icons at the time who were extremely thin by means that were not healthy. But she said, "No, I had mono," and it was true. So people largely just believed her and forgot about it. Of course, it wouldn't stay true that it was from mono. This is one of my favorite movies ever. I don't care if people think that that's stupid. I don't care. This is a fantastic movie, and you can't tell me that I'm wrong. And actually, Amanda helped Channing Tatum to get this role, and this role made him a star. So thank you, Amanda Bynes. She saw him in a Mountain Dew commercial and thought he'd be perfect and that all of the girls would love him, which we do. And he was 26 and she was only 20. So the producers were not exactly sold on the idea, but she was like, "No big deal. He's 26. It's not a big deal. I can totally kiss him, even though I'm 20. I see what you're doing there, Amanda. And I totally would also be scheming. So fair enough. And Mr. Channing also spoke very highly of her. He said she was vibrant, she was on fire on set. And that's how a lot of people described her at this time. She was energetic and she was an amazing actress, super focused, and loved her career, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, Amanda did not like this movie as much as the rest of the world did. It really, she said, led to a deep depression for her because she really didn't like seeing herself as a boy. And I'm particularly not putting photos of her as a boy for that reason. Amanda, if you're out there, I love you. Anyways, she didn't like that. And I can't blame her. I'm sure it's a very weird experience to see yourself as the opposite gender for an hour and a half. So that was the beginning of hard times for Amanda. And Amanda just went from one iconic role straight into the next, Hairspray, in 2007. And she said that this was the most fun that she had on set in her entire career. She loved that she got to sing, and this cast is fantastic. So great time for her all around. And also while filming Hairspray, Amanda had a little discovery. In a magazine, there was an article about a piece of candy that a lot of us with ADD take that also happens to help with weight loss. And she saw that and went to a psychiatrist, faked ADD symptoms, and got prescribed it. And while she did love seeing herself in Hairspray, I mean, this dress is out of my dreams, she really wanted some different roles, and she could not understand why she couldn't get them. And she was really specifically jealous of Lindsay Lohan, she has said, because Lindsay was getting the sexy, mature roles. But the reason is she couldn't get bad girl roles when she's such a good, wholesome person on set. And she was great at being Amanda. And it's just unfortunate that she wanted to be Lindsay at this point. Really looking to break into some more mature roles. And she gets a 2-film contract with Sony. And this contract was great because she was going to get to be the lead in her own movie. And the second part of the contract was a supporting role in Easy A. And she also starts 2010 with this Maxim cover. I'm kind of covering it up because I'm not sure if TikTok will let me put that on there, but very grown up of her. She also lands a role in the movie Hall Pass with Owen Wilson, and she's supposed to be a babysitter that seduces him, which is also a very mature role. But this is when people started to notice that maybe things were not all going well in Amanda's life. Apparently, while she was filming, they noticed that she was acting very paranoid and skittish and just generally strange, and they were struggling to get good footage of her for it. So shortly after this, they announced that she would no longer be in the film due to a scheduling conflict. And most people just assumed that she was fired because of bad behavior on set. She said, though, later that she wasn't fired. Actually, she left because she was struggling so much. And a side note, the medication that she was taking for ADD as well as weed, when they're mixed together, they make you really paranoid. So no wonder she was acting that way. And she said that she couldn't focus on her lines at all at the time. That's how she remembers it. And around this time, they also found out that the second film that she was going to be the lead in with Sony was going to be canceled. Hairspray 2 was also supposed to come out later that year in 2010, but it was also canceled, and that was another role that Amanda wouldn't be able to take part in. So that is when, at age 24, she tweeted out that she didn't love acting anymore, being an actress wasn't as fun as it may seem, and that she was retiring. And she has said more recently that she does regret doing the announcement on Twitter. She said that she was just so done with it at that point. And I'm guessing probably also had to do with the substances a little bit, just the abrupt ending to her career. But she did actually have to jump back on Twitter and announce that she was not retired because Easy A came out, which she had been working on since 2009, but it came out in 2010, so it was a little confusing for everyone. And this was the role that she played. She was kind of like an uptight Christian girl. She was a comic relief character, essentially. And it's kind of unfortunate because I feel like the role that Emma Stone plays in this movie would actually be kind of the perfect transition role for Amanda Bynes at the time, because she's kind of quirky and funny, cutesy girl, but she becomes very mature, and it is a pretty mature role. And I'm guessing that Amanda would have loved playing the lead role. I mean, I have no idea, but she got stuck with the quirky side character role. And so once again, she just wasn't feeling it. And she said that when she saw the premiere, she absolutely hated herself in it. She hated the way she looked, she hated her performance, and that was the last straw for her. Although she has later said that her perception may have been altered because she was taking substances. Unfortunately, though, Easy A would be the last movie that we saw Amanda Bynes in, and she hated herself in it, so it spiraled her out of the acting world. And it's actually incredibly hard for me to believe that the last time that I saw Amanda Bynes in a movie was Easy A. I think it's just because Easy A doesn't seem that long ago to me. But it was 2010. That's over 10 years ago, which is crazy. So the rest of 2010 was basically just a spiral. She has said that she started hanging out with the wrong people, which is never going to help anything. And she felt very purposeless. She wasn't doing acting jobs, and that's all she had ever known. And so basically she just fell into a really, really bad mental health spiral. Around this time is also when she started the tweets. And I think a lot of people know her for some of the crazier tweets that she has put out over the years. And it started with saying that her dad is as ugly as RuPaul and she's so glad she doesn't look like either of them, which is a very bold statement to make. And the statements are only going to get bolder from here. And at this time, she was also still adamantly denying that she drank alcohol, that she did any substances, and that she even went to parties and clubs. She's not a partier. Never. Famous 24-year-old? I've never known them to party, ever. Is a little far-fetched. You're of legal drinking age. If you want to drink, you can drink. If you want to go to parties, who's going to blame you? I bet they're cool. And of course, we know now that that wasn't accurate at all. Which is fine, but it just wasn't accurate. And we are into 2012, and things are about to get very rough, so buckle in. So apparently at this time, she was seeking emancipation from her parents, actually, and she was staying with none other than Dan Schneider and his wife, which I had no idea that he had a wife. she was staying with them a lot, but she wasn't fully living with them. She was staying with her parents some of the time, but it's very strange, very strange. So then she has a little incident. She's texting while driving, which is not good, but not unheard of, and a cop comes and pulls her over, and when he goes to give her the ticket, she skirts away. And it's an interesting move considering that you're extremely recognizable because you're a celebrity. So obviously she still got the ticket. But the trouble really came the next month when she got a DUI in WeHo, West Hollywood. She sideswiped a cop car, which is not a good idea, although I'm sure it seemed that way after some alcohol. And she refused the breathalyzer, which, classic move there. I will say, though, she does look pretty good in this mugshot. But her dad claimed that she actually blew a 0 on the breathalyzer, which doesn't sound right, and that she didn't drink. Yeah, I believe that. And then a couple months after this DUI, she tweeted at Barack Obama to fire the cop that charged her with the DUI, which doesn't make you appear super level-headed. But I don't think that she was at this time, so I'm not going to blame her. And then again, 1 month later, in May, she gets arrested for a hit and run. Why she was driving after a DUI is unclear. And then again, in May, accused of another hit and run. Things are clearly going downhill, as we can see. And then in September, she gets pulled over for driving with a suspended license. How she got away with this until September, I do not know, because she had people taking pictures of her, literally driving cars. The cops just, that wasn't a priority for them, I guess. I don't know. But she got her license revoked and her car impounded. Also in September, people start noticing that she's acting really, really strange in public. Amanda goes to a cycling class. So she's in this class and she starts like switching bikes back and forth, and then she takes off her shirt to reveal a regular bra, not even a sports bra, which like we could move past that probably. Then she straight up gets off the bike and just starts doing her makeup in the mirror, which who even wears makeup to work out? Not I. My pores can't handle that, but Amanda's can apparently. But of course, she gets kicked out after that because she's not cycling, she's doing her makeup. And she still at this time was denying any claims that she had mental health issues. She was still denying the DUI. She was still denying that she drank alcohol. She's denying it all. She also had a confrontation with a photographer later that day. He was trying to get a shot of her. I think this is actually one of the shots he got. And she was kind of mad at him. She didn't want him to be taking photos of her, which fair enough. And one of the things she said was that I have to look beautiful, which just kind of breaks my heart. But he was reassuring her and being nice, but she was not having it, and she straight up clocked this man. So things weren't going well, and her parents had noticed. And so they were living in Texas at the time. They moved back to LA to keep a closer eye on her. And even her uncle was talking to the tabloids at this point for some reason, saying that like she really needed help, but there wasn't enough communication in her family, which is just kind of weird. Like, don't communicate with the tabloids then, communicate with Amanda. But then Amanda decides to move to New York. Not like her parents just moved to LA to keep an eye on her. Maybe that's why she moved to New York. But she has an incident in New York as well. So the first thing that happens, still in 2012, still in September, she locks herself in the bathroom of this cupcake store. And at first it was just like, okay, she's going to the bathroom. Then it was like, she's taking a really long time. What's going on here? Then people got really concerned. I think the store was even closing. So it was like, why won't she get out of the bathroom? A fireman had to come in and like try to bust down the door, and because she wasn't responding. So, I mean, people assumed the worst, I'm sure. And then right before he busts down the door, she just walks out real casual. And it's like, I was just doing my makeup. That's fine. Maybe tell someone though. So she was acting strange. And things just keep going downhill. So it started out with some truly crazy tweets that were, well, the first one was funny, okay? She wanted Drake to unalive her lady parts. I think it's kind of funny, okay? But the second one was about how Chris Brown beat up Rihanna because she wasn't pretty enough, which is not funny. Wasn't funny then, wasn't funny now, and truly, she was clearly unwell, and she has since said that she's very ashamed of her Twitter actions at the time. So we need to remember she was not doing well. There was also some other actions that were letting us know that she was not well. For example, this video posted of her sucking on a Sour Patch Kid that went on far too long. There was a video of her running on a treadmill, which was really strange. And she posted some topless photos on Twitter, which actually is not that weird. Like, I think celebrities now would do that. We wouldn't bat an eyelid. But taken all together, kind of painting a picture that she's not doing well. She was also constantly tweeting that she was going to sue this magazine or that magazine for posting edited photos of her, and that they're trying to make her look ugly intentionally, and still denying using any substances or drinking alcohol, which I think if that were true, this would be even more scary. She also told the world in May that she had gotten a nose job, twins, and that she had gotten her eyes de-webbed. And I think that those two things are just a reflection of the fact that she cared a lot about her appearance at this time. It was evident. She was constantly saying that photos of her were edited, saying how she was so pretty and other people were ugly, this and that. She was very invested in how she looked to the rest of the world. And then she got arrested. And this time it was because a bong had been thrown out of her window to the street below, where it obviously could have hit someone, so that's considered reckless endangerment. And apparently she kind of tried to cover stuff up when the cops were coming in, so tampering with evidence. She was also wearing wigs at this time, clearly, and she eventually did get these charges dropped, and after they were dropped, she tweeted that the cops sexually harassed her, and that it was all just some big mistake, it was never a real thing, she doesn't do any substances, and that she wasn't on speaking terms with her parents. Just dropped that in there. The paparazzi were also constantly after her at this time. She was constantly threatening to sue them. They were all over her because, of course, this was a public drama all the time. But most people were really concerned about her. I don't know if the paparazzi were concerned, but they were probably feasting on it. But most people were very concerned. This was her look for court, very Kylie Jenner. And while the paparazzi were loving the fact that she was breaking down in public, everyone else was very concerned, including Lance Bass, who was in Love Wrecked with her. He went on a radio show and said that she had mental health issues, and she blasted him on the internet, which is what she was known for doing at this time, so no surprise there. She said that he was just an ugly ex-boy band member with no career and no talent, and that he was only saying that because she ignored him on Twitter, and that they hadn't even spoken in 11 years, so how would he know anything about her mental health? Which, great point, Amanda. However, Lance pointed out that actually they saw each other 3 years ago at a birthday party. So, but 3 years ago is still a long time. He did seem to be genuinely concerned, but it is kind of odd that he was just talking about her. But he also was speculating that her Twitter account might be being run by someone else. Or that she was really struggling mentally, because she would have never lashed out at him like that before, because they're just such good friends, even though they haven't seen each other in 3 years. And just like Lance, lots of people were saying that they were concerned about her and saying bad things about her, probably equally. But she said in an interview at the time that she had no clue why people were calling her insane, and that anybody who had an opinion on her like that was just super ugly, so it didn't even matter. Unfortunately, things took an abrupt turn, because in July of 2013, she was in LA, even though she lived in New York, she was in LA, and she started a fire in a stranger's driveway, and they also think that she put gasoline on her dog, by accident, I think, but that's obviously a mark of being unwell, and this is when really everyone realized this is a severe situation. Also, because she had no car or license at the time, people are pretty sure that she took cabs from New York to LA to start this fire in the driveway. So at this point, the police sent her to a psych ward for a 72-hour hold and an evaluation, and her parents filed for a temporary conservatorship. But at first, they were denied the conservatorship, but they did extend her psych ward hold, so she had another 2 weeks in the psych ward. She then had to have another 30 days in the psych ward after those 2 weeks, and at that point, her mother was granted a temporary conservatorship. And again, this was a temporary conservatorship. We'll get more into the conservatorship in a little bit, but it started just temporary. And she went to a rehab center after that 30 days in the psych ward, which was first 3 days, and then it was 2 weeks, and then it was 30 days. She needed a lot of evaluation. Then they sent her to rehab, and she's in a temporary conservatorship. However, only her mother visited her while she was in the psych ward, and that is an important note for things that go on later. And of course, people were speculating that she had schizophrenia or she was bipolar or something. Her mom just said, no, nothing wrong with her. She has no mental illnesses, which I don't think anyone believes. But by the end of the year, she was living with her parents. She was enrolled in therapy, and she was enrolled in FIDM, which is a fashion institute. And she had always wanted to do fashion, so things were really looking up for her. And in February, her temporary conservatorship ends, and things start going awry again. Apparently, she was always talking about how ugly she was and how much plastic surgery she needed, and was 24/7 on Twitter, which is not healthy for anyone, especially not somebody who is struggling mentally. And then in September of 2014, she got another DUI. And her parents didn't even know that she had gotten the DUI until the press started reporting on it, because she was no longer in the conservatorship and they weren't trying to hold her in one. She also got kicked out of FIDM at this point because she was skipping classes, and she moved to New York and said that she wanted to transfer to NYU, which it's not really transferring if you get kicked out of the first one, but transferring. And this is when other Twitters claiming to be Amanda started popping up. And I know that you might be thinking that that's kind of like, who cares about Twitters pretending to be her? But people really thought that these Twitters might be her, and they had a lot of information that was kind of strange. So we're going to need to talk about them because I find them very interesting. So therefore, we have to talk about them. So Chicky Tweets 28 is the first one that comes out saying that they are Amanda Bynes. They tweeted multiple times about the voices in my head are driving me crazy, which is scary. They also tweeted a lot about her mom and dad trying to harm her or trying to harm her dog, which is another very scary accusation. And it kept getting worse from there, because then they started tweeting about the Illuminati, about a cure for cancer being hidden, about being spied on by the government, having microchips in your brain, a lot about microchips. They also talked about various things that the government was using to control us, spy on us, poison us, like microwaves and smoke detectors. Very kind of like, if anyone's watching American Horror Story right now, it's giving me those vibes, Alien, American Horror Story vibes. It was basically a constant rant about how her mind was being read and or controlled by the government, and that mind control by the government is real, and it's being attempted by either her dad or the US government, or both in cahoots for whatever reason. Then another Twitter account pops up called Persian LA 27. It's claiming to be Amanda, but it's under the name Ashley Banks, which are conveniently the same initials as Amanda Bynes. And it doesn't claim to be Amanda in the bio, but it tweets claiming to be her, and a lot of people started to think it was her. They were also tweeting a lot of mean things, like Amanda had been tweeting on her verified Twitter when she was not doing well. And they started out actually asking for money and help, which doesn't seem like it's really Amanda, but some people bought into that. Persian LA 27 also said that she was essentially homeless at the time of the fire incident, and that people needed to stop making comments about it, and that her dog had been taken from her against her will, but she felt that it had been reincarnated as her sister's baby. And she said that the reason that she needed to use this account was because when she tweeted from her verified account, she got committed to a psych ward against her will. So it was probably better if she just used this account. And it had the double benefit of the fact that tabloids and news reporters could not use it because it wasn't a verified Twitter account, not a reputable source. And you may ask why I'm using it now, and that is because I'm not a news reporter. I'm just making this series on TikTok. And actually, tabloids did use it, so. Amanda has tried to get it taken down multiple times, though, or get it taken down. I don't know if she's actually trying. If it is her, maybe she's not, but Twitter has said they're not taking it down, apparently. So Chicky Tweets 28 did not like Persian LA 27 being on Twitter at all, also claiming to be Amanda. So they said that it was actually created by Perez Hilton to brand her as unwell. Chicky Tweets 28 also said that she had to make a different Instagram and a Twitter account because she wanted her parents to stay away from her. And that Persian LA 27 was just somebody trying to take advantage of it. Somebody or Perez Hilton. Who knows? She also let everyone know that she, Chicky Tweets 28, was perfectly sane, perfectly healthy, perfectly fine, and that they shouldn't believe anything that Persian LA 27 said, even though they were saying pretty much the same things, except for the mind control part. That's just Chicky Tweets. Moving back to Amanda in real life, she had a shoplifting incident at Barney's. According to her, she was being harassed by some people for photos, and she had been looking at this hat that she wanted to buy and was planning on buying, but she was using the hat to shield herself and just walked out with it. She also said that she was just walking out to go grab her purse to buy it, but when she came back to buy it, the security guard said she was no longer welcome at that store. She was also seen on security footage, like, doing weird kind of harassment things to the security guard in there, like doing these dances on him and touching him a lot. It was really strange behavior. And then things got really ugly because she started tweeting about her dad making some very serious accusations that he had been verbally, physically, and sexually abusive to her. She also said her dad would often call her ugly, that he was messing with himself in front of her, and that her mother knew all about this and never did anything, so she was going to get a restraining order against him. And of course, Amanda's mother and the rest of Amanda's family said that's not true at all. The next day, though, Amanda took back those statements and said that her dad never did any of those things, but I'm looking at the quote right now. The microchip in my brain made me say those things, but he's the one that ordered them to microchip me. Very Chicky Tweets 28 of her. So same day, I believe, she actually goes to LA because Sam Lufty is saying that he's going to help her legally, but he's totally pulling a fast one on her because instead she goes to a mental hospital and gets put in another temporary conservatorship. And I'd also like to note that her mom is the only one who filed for a conservatorship and the only one who's talking to the media at all during this time. I think her dad kept out of it all, and probably a good thing after all of those things that she was tweeting about him. So after rehab, she revealed that she had been diagnosed as manic depressive and bipolar, which it's funny that her mom said that she had no mental illnesses, but she does. I think we all knew it. And so she's in this conservatorship, again, temporary. It was only going to be 6 years, and I know that that sounds like a long time, but people do not get better overnight, as we clearly have seen with Amanda. So Amanda did want out of this conservatorship, but she wasn't even having to stay with her parents. Her parents had gotten her a hotel so she could stay there alone. She was actually couch surfing with friends, but they weren't really controlling her much. They were just kind of keeping an eye on her, and she wasn't doing that well, to be honest. And evidence of that is this picture of her falling asleep in a mall, which I feel like, I mean, if I fell asleep in a mall, it's not really that big of a deal. It's kind of weird, but she's a celebrity, and like something serious could have happened. You never know. So that was a mark that something was still wrong. And we did stop hearing from Amanda for a while. From like 2014 to 2017, she was getting therapy. She was doing better. She was staying out of the limelight, which I think is probably a good idea. And then Persian LA 27 in 2017 tweets this, that she's pregnant. And it's really creepy that they have this photo of her. I mean, it's either her or it's actually freaky. But Amanda tweeted from her verified account that it wasn't her. Of course, then Persian LA 27 tweeted that her verified account was run by her parents. They also tweeted once again about abuse from her father and saying that she had had an operation to get rid of a baby when she was 13. They also said that they were engaged, and this man is just some man that she was dating at the time. I mean, he's not important, but they had these photos of her. Like, they were trying to back themselves up by having all of these photos of her that the internet had not seen. So, pretty crazy. And they even had her driver's license. Like, how do you get that? Of course, I'm aware Photoshop exists, so. Then, just a few hours later, after all of these pictures, they tweet out this. FYI, my name is Ashley Banks. I do not know Amanda, nor do I care about her. And I have stated this a dozen times. Please leave me alone. Which A dozen times she stated that she is Amanda, but not that she isn't, so everyone's confused there. So Ashley Banks, Persian LA 27, says they're not Amanda Bynes, they don't know Amanda Bynes, they don't care about Amanda Bynes, even though they have claimed to be Amanda Bynes so many times and talked about her so many times. Then they start tweeting that Amanda is evil and controlling Ashley Banks' thoughts, which I'm thinking maybe that could be a reference to like her parents controlling her, because they said that Amanda Bynes' verified Twitter account was run by the parents, so maybe it's kind of like a cryptic text. They also said that they were not a bad actress like Amanda Bynes, but they were a fashion designer extraordinaire, which is interesting because maybe Ashley Banks is the new and improved Amanda Bynes who wants to do fashion and doesn't want to do acting. Another thing that she tweeted about was money being stolen from her. I'm guessing production companies and also her parents. Not sure on that one. Then Ashley Banks chooses to further confuse us by tweeting this out later that exact same night. I've been forced to deny this account to prevent them from having me committed against my will again. So everyone is just lost at this point. And then verified Amanda Bynes' Twitter says again that she's not Persian LA 27 and that they hacked her personal Instagram and took her photos, which is absolutely possible. There was also a rumor going around in 2017 that Selena Gomez had offered Amanda Bynes a part in 13 Reasons Why, and that she was planning on going to church with Amanda, trying to help her out, which, as sweet as that sounds, Amanda did not take the role, and I'm guessing that that's just not real. But if it is, how sweet of you, Selena. Then, in 2018, Amanda hits us with a Paper Magazine interview, and she starts talking about her life. She talked about her substance use, getting with the wrong people after quitting acting, the hall pass situation, all of that. And she said that she was 4 years sober. She also said that she wanted to return to acting and design a clothing line. So everything was seeming like it was getting better. However, after a little bit of being in the spotlight again, things, I suppose, were not going better. So she checked herself into rehab, which that is a step in the right direction that she checked herself in. So in my mind, things are still going a little bit better. Then in 2019, Amanda graduated from FITM, finally, and she's also been receiving mental health treatment, which is fantastic. And we are now in the year 2020, and there's some big news for Amanda. Ta-da! She got engaged. And we don't know the name of the mystery man, at least initially, but later we figure out that his name is Paul. She also reportedly was 14 months sober as of 2020, and she graced us with her presence on Instagram and showed off this new face tattoo and the septum ring and Paul. Apparently, though, her mom did not approve of the engagement, and that was not going to work because she was in a conservatorship, so her mom kind of has to approve. So it seems like they ended up breaking up briefly. She did end up posting on Instagram with Paul later on, though, and saying that they were together, so I guess everything turned out fine. And I cannot tell if this is the same man as in the last one. I think it is, but it's so unclear to me. I don't know why. She also has talked about the conservatorship briefly, but only about the cost of her therapy and wanting to go to a different therapist. So it's kind of unclear where she stands with the conservatorship right now. However, what we do know as of 2021 is that the conservatorship was extended until 2023. And I know that a lot of people are very anti-conservatorships right now, especially with the whole Free Britney movement. And I am definitely part of Free Britney. I agree that she should not be in a conservatorship, especially if she's mentally stable enough to be touring. She's mentally stable enough to guard her own affairs. And she really didn't exhibit behavior that warranted a conservatorship in the first place. However, I think after watching this series, we can all safely say, hopefully, that this is a very different situation from Britney's. For one, Amanda wasn't just shaving her head. She lit a fire in a driveway. She threw a bong out a window. She was tweeting very sexually aggressive messages. It was a lot more of serious and dangerous behaviors for herself and for others. And Amanda also has a very different conservatorship experience than Britney. She has not been in the limelight. They're not parading her like a show dog. They're not working her. She is out of the spotlight. She's getting mental health treatment. They're trying to keep her life private. And she's working towards goals that she wants to achieve and getting help. And I think that that is the way a conservatorship should be. Her estate conservatorship also ended in 2017, so her finances are in a trust. She has easier access to them, but she still has the medical and the personal parts of the conservatorship, which I think is probably what's best for her at this point. Her parents have tried temporary conservatorships over the years, and things kept devolving, and this is again a temporary conservatorship. There is a deadline on it. And I think they're really just trying to get her the help that she needs and keep her healthy and happy. But if you disagree with me, feel free to chime in the comments. And thank y'all for watching and sticking with me on this one. I love Amanda. I wish her the best. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment any additions you might have or any thoughts or opinions. I'd love to hear them, as well as any series suggestions or new video suggestions in general. And if you want to see more of me and more of my series, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week with another one.